Most people in Ravenbrook avoided Hollow Manor. It wasn't just the crumbling stone walls or the way the windows stared out like hollow eyes. It was the stories. Children whispered of screams carried on the wind, of strange lights glowing in the attic at night, of shadows that moved when no one was there. The house had stood empty for decades, but its reputation had never faded. Adrian Cole had heard the rumors since childhood. Now in his 20s, he wasn't easily swayed by old ghost tales. He was a journalist for the Ravenbrook Gazette, and when his editor challenged him to write a Halloween feature, Adrian knew exactly what his topic would be. He was going to spend the night inside Hollow Manor. The night Adrian arrived, a storm brewed overhead. Rain slicked the cobblestones as he approached the towering black gates, which groaned in protest as he pushed them open. The house loomed against the thunder-lit sky, its once grand balcony sagging, vines snaking up its cracked walls. Adrian felt a chill crawl down his spine, but he shook it off. Fear is good for the story, he reminded himself. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of mold and something metallic, like rust or dried blood. His flashlight beam cut across peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and shattered picture frames littering the floor. Every step echoed in the cavernous silence, and for a moment, Adrian thought he heard footsteps trailing behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Just shadows stretching across the rotted carpet. He set up his recorder on the dusty mantel. "This is Adrian Cole, reporting live from Hollow Manor," he began, his voice unsteady. "I'll be documenting every sound, every shift in this house. Let's see if the legends are true." As midnight struck, the storm outside intensified. Lightning flashed through the broken windows, illuminating something that froze Adrian in place. For a split second, in the mirror across the hall, he swore he saw a woman standing behind him. Her hair hung wet and stringy over her face, her dress torn and stained. When he whipped around, the hall was empty. Adrian's heart pounded. He replayed the recorder, and though he hadn't spoken, a faint whisper bled through the static. "You shouldn't be here." His journalistic instincts warred with a primal fear, screaming at him to run. But Adrian pressed deeper into the house, climbing the grand staircase, which groaned with each step. Halfway up, he froze again. The chandelier above rattled violently, though no wind stirred. And then, from the landing above, came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps approaching. Adrian tightened his grip on the flashlight. "Hello? Who's there?" Silence. And then, faint but undeniable, a child's voice drifted down the stairwell. "Come play with us, Adrian." Daniel's heart pounded as he moved deeper into the house. The sound of dripping water echoed through the hall, though no pipes or leaks were visible. He raised his flashlight, illuminating dust swirling in the stagnant air. The house felt alive, like it was holding its breath, waiting for him to make a wrong move. At the end of the hallway, he found a room with walls covered in peeling wallpaper. His light passed over faded family portraits, still hanging in crooked frames. The faces had blurred with age, but their eyes. The eyes looked freshly painted, wet, as though watching him in real time. Daniel blinked hard, but the illusion didn't fade. He pulled out his recorder again. "This is unsettling," he whispered. Family photos appear altered eyes following movement. Atmosphere is oppressive. Feels like I'm being watched. A sudden creak erupted behind him. Daniel spun around, light beam cutting through the shadows. Nothing. Only the long, empty hallway. He forced himself to breathe, to stay logical. Houses settle. Wood shifts. That was all. Still, the feeling gnawed at him. He returned to the living room. The fireplace was cold, but the ashes inside looked disturbingly fresh, as though someone had burned something only hours ago. He crouched to examine them and spotted what looked like small fragments of bone. He froze. Animal bones, maybe? Or something else? Before he could decide, A sound rose from upstairs. Slow, deliberate, footsteps. He stiffened. The air grew colder. His breath became visible. Daniel whispered into his recorder, documenting footsteps above me. There should be no one here. Gripping his flashlight tighter, he climbed the staircase. Each step groaned under his weight. The noise above stopped the moment he reached the landing. Silence wrapped around him like a suffocating blanket. The second floor was darker, heavier. Rooms branched off the narrow hall, each door slightly ajar. He chose the first one. Inside, the walls were lined with shelves of dusty books. A rocking chair sat near the window, its fabric torn. As Daniel stepped inside, the chair began to rock gently, though no breeze touched the room. He froze, every muscle locked. "Motion detected," he whispered hoarsely. Chair rocking on its own. The chair slowed, stopped. Daniel backed away, bumping into the doorframe. He moved to the next room. It was a bedroom. The bed still made, though yellowed with age. But what chilled him most was the impression of a body still visible on the mattress, as though someone had just gotten up moments ago. Then came the whisper, low, hoarse, right beside his ear. "Leave?" Daniel gasped, spinning around wildly. The room was empty. His flashlight trembled in his hand. The whisper echoed in his skull, making his skin crawl. Panic rose, but curiosity pulled harder. He couldn't leave yet, not without answers. As he backed into the hall, something caught his eye. At the very end of the corridor, a door stood closed. Unlike the others, it was untouched by dust or decay. It almost looked new, and something inside seemed to be waiting for him. The following night, Aaron returned to Blackwood Manor with a determination he hadn't felt before. The nightmares had been relentless shadows crawling along his walls, whispers curling around his ears, the sensation of someone watching him as he tried to sleep. He knew if he didn't get answers soon, the house would destroy him from the inside out. Armed with a flashlight, a notebook, and an old journal he had found in the manor study the day before, Aaron pushed open the heavy front doors. They groaned in protest, almost as if warning him not to return. The stale air was colder than the night outside, and his breath misted in front of him. The journal belonged to a man named Jonathan Blackwood, the original owner of the estate. Jonathan's writings were fragmented, filled with ramblings about voices in the walls and something feeding in the dark. The last entry was the most disturbing. "The house has chosen me. I hear her heartbeat in the floors. If I resist, she will take the children." Aaron tightened his grip on the book and stepped deeper into the manor. The grand staircase loomed before him, the carpeted steps torn and rotting. A faint sound drifted from above, a woman humming. The melody was soft but unmistakable. His pulse quickened. "Hello?" His voice cracked against the silence. The humming stopped instantly. Then, faint footsteps echoed across the landing. He climbed the staircase slowly, each step creaking under his weight. When he reached the top, he scanned the hallway. His flashlight flickered again, sputtering in and out, and in those brief flashes of light, he thought he saw her, a pale woman in a tattered black gown, standing at the far end of the corridor. Her hair hung in tangled strands across her face. When the light steadied, she was gone. Aaron's throat went dry. He followed the hallway to the master bedroom, the room mentioned most often in Jonathan's journal. The door was shut, its wood warped and splintered with age. He turned the handle, and it opened with a slow groan. Inside, the room was nearly untouched compared to the rest of the house. A massive canopy bed stood against the wall, its curtains moth-eaten but intact. A cracked mirror leaned against the dresser, reflecting his trembling frame. And then his flashlight caught something else. Across the floor, carved into the wooden boards, were deep claw marks. Not the kind a person would make, but something bigger, stronger. The marks led directly to the bed. Heart hammering, Aaron crouched and ran his fingers across the grooves. They were old but real. Before he could process it, the temperature plummeted. His breath poured out in clouds, and the mirror's surface fogged over. Slowly, words began to appear across the glass, written as though by an unseen hand. "Leave? Before she finds you." Aaron staggered back, dropping his flashlight. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, from the shadows beneath the bed, he heard the sound of breathing. Slow, heavy, inhuman. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house, though no one had touched it. The cold grew sharper, piercing like invisible needles against Ethan's skin. He raised the lantern higher, its flame trembling as though it feared the dark surrounding them. "We have to go," whispered Clara, her voice almost too weak to hear. But Ethan shook his head. He couldn't leave, not yet. Something had taken Alex. Something had lured them into this house, and it wanted more than fear. It wanted them. The narrow hallway ahead opened into what looked like a parlor, but the air there rippled unnaturally, as if the space itself bent and shifted. The lantern revealed portraits along the walls, their painted eyes following each step. Ethan felt them staring, their silent gazes pressing heavy on his chest. Clara clung to his arm. "Don't look at the paintings," Ethan warned, but it was too late. Clara froze, her eyes wide. In one of the portraits, a painted woman dressed in black lace, with hollow eyes, smiled slowly. Her mouth opened in the frame, and a whisper slid into the room. "Stay forever." Clara screamed, yanking her gaze away. Ethan pulled her forward, stumbling deeper into the house. Every door they passed shut violently behind them, cutting off their path of escape. The house wasn't just haunted, it was alive, hurting them deeper, feeding on their terror. Suddenly, they stumbled into a vast dining hall. The tables stretched impossibly far, covered with rotting food and silverware, tarnished black. At the head of the table sat Alex, but he wasn't Alex anymore. His skin was pale, his eyes glassy and hollow. He grinned unnaturally wide, his lips stretching too far. "I told you," his voice croaked, layered with something inhuman beneath. "They don't let you leave." Clara sobbed, backing against Ethan. The figure of Alex stood, his movements jerky, like a puppet pulled by unseen strings. Shadows wrapped around his limbs, controlling him. Ethan raised the lantern higher. Its light flared, pushing back the shadows slightly. "Fight it, Alex," Ethan shouted, but the thing only tilted its head, laughing. The shadows erupted, surging across the room. The walls trembled, dust raining from the ceiling. Chairs scraped the floor, moving on their own, blocking every exit. Clara grabbed Ethan's hand. "It wants us too," she cried. Desperation fueled Ethan. He hurled the lantern onto the table. Flames roared instantly, racing along the rotten food, igniting the shadows. The house screamed a sound not of wood or stone, but as something alive wounded. The ground shook violently, windows shattering as the fire consumed the dining hall. Ethan pulled Clara toward the collapsing hallway, dodging falling beams and crashing debris. The house wailed, its voice chasing them through the smoke. At last, they burst through the front door into the night. Cold, clean air hit them like salvation. Behind them, the house groaned, its windows glowing like furious eyes as flames devoured it. For a moment, Ethan thought he saw Alex standing in the firelight. Just Alex, not the puppet, his face calm. Then he vanished in the smoke. The house crumbled, swallowed by its own rage. Ethan and Clara collapsed on the lawn, coughing, trembling. The night was silent again, but as the last wall fell, a whisper slid on the wind, soft yet certain. "It's not over."